Have you gone on to Overwatch, logged into rank, and realized there's a ton of carry heroes in this game, but kind of wondered what carry hero you should actually play, and mainly what ones you shouldn't go on to? Well, today hopefully I can go over some of those guys, and talk about some of the heroes that I feel like are the hardest ones to play overall, in the current meta that we're in right now, that being mainly a dive comp meta, and a meta with a lot of Soldier 76 and Far Mercy. Overall, these characters are still very strong. If you can happen to learn them very well, that's great for you, and you can carry amazingly with them. However, they are very hard to play, and if you aren't maining them, or secondarying them, or just having a lot of time on these characters, I'd really recommend to play someone easier than one of the people on this list. Now, Widowmaker, I would never say has ever really been way too meta, but she's always been a pretty good hard carry hero. She's very hard to play, very hard to aim with, and has a lot of weird jank that you can try to pull to get some nice picks. However, if you can get those picks, you've won your team the team fight, and I feel like a lot of people have realized that and started to pick her up over the time. Now, with that said, I feel like currently the meta that we're in is the hardest meta that she's really ever been in, other than maybe Triple Tank. That was, yeah, she couldn't do anything. But as far as the dive comp meta, I feel like the biggest problems about this is that you only work on huge maps, and the majority of maps aren't that as it is right now, which just does really hurt your character quite a bit. If the map's a medium or small size map, as it is right now with Lucio, Winston, Tracer, Genji being seen for the vast majority of games, they can just get onto you way too fast. With a shield, and especially with someone like D.Va that can just completely aerial denial you, it's very difficult for you to actually pull out many kills if the enemies are actually targeting you for the most part. Now, with that said, again, you can get picks, you can take out these really low HP targets, and you can still win your team the game. However, unless you've learned the ability to stay out of their line of sights, to know when to hide, know when to peek, know when to get in, know when to get out, know where to position, and know how to stay safe, I'd say she's probably not the best pick for the average player to pick right now, adding to the fact that, of course, she's very hard to aim with as well. So, Sombra's actually had a quite big rise in popularity lately, and I think that is mainly because she's actually really good at countering dive. But one problem that I've seen with a lot of Sombras is that they seem like they think that they can just pick up the character, just hack the D.Va, and that's all they ever have to do. However, that's not really how it works way too often. Sombra, as the player, you gotta play smart. You have to know where to be, and you have to know actually how to get kills as this character, how to flake around safely, and how to actually escape safely as well. She doesn't have the highest DPS, she doesn't have the highest mobility, and it's really kind of hard to figure out how to play her playstyle. Now, of course, if you are one of the players that have learned how to play her, such as Cody, you can do a lot, such as shutting down all the dive comp's damage, or as well with that, shutting down a tank like a Winston or like a D.Va. Overall, I feel like if you do happen to put in the time to learn her, it'll work, it'll win you a lot of games, and we've definitely been seeing that. But if you haven't actually bothered to put in the time to learn Sombra, I still feel like she can be a very underwhelming DPS to have on your team. Her damage is low, her healing is pretty good, but you don't really pick her for the healing, let's be honest. And it's kind of awkward to play with a Sombra that doesn't really know where to be. If you're just trying to get a few key hacks, that can work sometimes, but unless you know overall how to play her kit, I feel like you're just going to be kind of useless to your team. While if you do happen to learn how to play her kit, how to play it safely, and how to get nice picks as well with other than, you know, simply just hacking the key important targets, that's when you can actually pick her up, and that's when you can actually win with this character quite often. So yes, I've seen Raksu play Hanzo, and yes, I've seen all the other Hanzo players starting to quickly climb up the ladder and win a lot of games, and yes, I know that you are one of those Hanzo players that wants to climb up the ladder with them and show how great Hanzo can be. And yes, I agree, Hanzo can be a good character. And if you put in a lot of time and a lot of effort, and if you learn how to aim with him, you learn how to snipe with him, you learn what to position with him, and you learn how to stay alive, and how to protect your team, and how to get picks on squishies easily, and how to really aim great at close range, he can do great in all those situations. However, if you're just picking up the character without having much time on him, I think you're always going to be let down quite a bit. He takes quite a decent amount of aim, but more than that, I feel like he takes a lot of knowledge to be able to be played. Really just knowing when you can fight, when you can win fights, and as well how the error works in the air, and mainly how to predict where people are going to be walking as well. If you can't get all these skills under your belt, I feel like Hanzo can feel, again, underwhelming. And you can probably just feel, why am I not just playing Soldier 76? Well, Hanzo can do some nice medium range consistent damage if you're far range for the majority of the time. Of course, Soldier's just a little bit easier to play. And overall, I'm going to say Soldier is a pretty much easier to play version of Hanzo that's probably going to be able to carry you up games a lot quicker. If you looked at all these Hanzo players, they have hundreds, that being 500 or 600 hours on the character, learning how to play them, learning how to specialize at them. And if you can't happen to put in a lot of time, maybe not 100, but maybe even just 50, if you can't get that time in, I'd say don't pick him up. He's definitely not an easy character to pick, and while he can get some nice ultimates, which really aren't way too hard to use, everything else about his kit, I'm going to say overall, is a bit more difficult than what you should be doing if you're just randomly picking up somebody to try to carry you over a few games. But anyways, as always, that's just my own opinion on the characters that I personally feel like are the hardest carries that you probably shouldn't be playing unless you have a lot of experience with them, or unless you really know how to pull these guys out, and if you just know the exact right moments to switch to them and then switch off of them. Of course, I do again really say that these guys are strong picks if you can use them and if you are very good at the characters. Especially Sombra right now, she's actually working greatly in esports and in competitive, but of course again, make sure you please know how to play these picks. There's certain people that I feel like aren't, as hard to play, mainly Soldier, and I'd say maybe just go for him if you don't want to actually have to put a lot of time into a DPS. Especially if you're looking for, a secondary, let's say that you main tank or you main support and you want an easier DPS to play, because sometimes that happens, I'd say don't pick anyone on this list, but otherwise, keep killing these characters if you do really like them. Anyways, as always, guys, thank you all for watching. Leave a like if you did enjoy, press subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this in the future, and as always, guys, have a wonderful day.